After Sam Tordoff's win in race 3 at Alton Park, BMWs were on a high. They proved they could win races once more as the championship headed to Croft. Btcc Extra this week comes from Croft after rounds 13, 14 and 15 of the Dunlop MSA British Touring Car Championship. And here you needed a BMW to win. Each of the 3 drivers scored a victory. It was one apiece. Andy Prio, Sam Tordoff, and then Rob Collard scoring victories, and Paul O'Neill. It was a bit like last year. Croft, BMWs, perfect combination.
It was something that we said probably would happen, to be fair. But Andy Prio, brilliant race for him. You know, first win of the year. He needed that. Sam Tordoff, brilliant, and then Collard rounded it all off. But it's just his tyre degradation around here, and it was all to see.
During the third race, I suggested that Gordon Shedden was driver of the weekend because the move he pulled in race 3 to get the lead was fantastic, and the way he defended. I know he was losing places and the tyres were going off, but that in itself was stunning touring car driving.
It was stunning touring car driving, and I think that, you know, for me, he should have won that race 3. It was absolutely brilliant. With that ballast on, with that tyre, he drove exceptionally, and it just shows how much of a fighter and a great defending driver as well that Gordon Shedden is, and that car just looks super stunning. It really pushed that BMW for the win.
Race 3, as ever, had an awful lot going on. Bit of damage as well, though. Was that typical race 3, or do driving standards need looking at? What do you think? You've been in both seats. I mean, you've raced them. You've talked about these races. What do you think?
It started to creep back a bit, didn't it, the driving standards, I must admit. I mean, we always get that backed up nature where the cars are making contact in race 3 because of how the grid works, but still, there were some moves that really weren't on, to be honest, and there's cars that, you know, one in particular I'm sat on, it's got big damage from certain incidents over the weekend, so it's not what you want to see. But they've got a big break now, and that sometimes happens as well because they know the mechanics can fix the whole thing up until we got to Snetterton in about 5 or 6 weeks' time. So it is one of those things. But I mean, from your comms box, what did you think? It was a lot of damage, wasn't it?
There was. I mean, a lot of the overtaking was done properly. There were some good moves. But I think what perhaps we might be getting now is a real difference between the top 14, 15, say, with good pedigrees, good racecraft, and then there's a different race going on with, not to be disrespectful, the AMs, the less experienced drivers at the back, and it's a different way of racing, and it seems to be there where some of the damage is coming from.
Yeah, I'll go with that, actually. You do get, you know, you speak to some of the top drivers and they're saying we can go side by side with these people, but then when they come to the back of the grid, there are some clumsy manoeuvres, and that's where you get your most expensive accidents. It's just one of those things. That's what you're always going to get, to be fair, with British touring cars. The cars are fast, and, you know, and you're going to get that with people who are not that experienced. It's just the way it goes.
One of the cars that suffered damage in the third race was Alex Martin's Ford Focus. Another that ended up with barely a straight panel on it was Rob Austin's Exocet Racing Audi. Poor El Sherman once again was in the wars. You won't be surprised to learn that Rob was a bit grumpy. On the scale of weekends from hell, where does this one rate then?
Well, it's a bad time to ask me that. Race 1, we got the soft tyres out of the way. We had a good position for race 2. So, although we fell backwards at the end, which we kind of expected to, we were reasonably happy with that. We had P7 on the grid for race 2, and race 2 was good. Really good race with Gordon and Rob. Really enjoyed it. Where my weekend really went wrong, it's all down to Mickey Butler, you see. If he'd picked any of the other balls in that bowl, I'd have been all right. But a lot of people were on softs in that third race, and it gives them that extra little bit of grip early on, and what was going to play into my hands later on kind of ended my race early on, if you know what I mean. I think it just gives them that little bit of an opportunity, and whang.
I know we're doing this at the end of the day and there's the heat of the moment stuff and all that, but is there a point about driving standards now? Because obviously the grid is full. There are people with limited amounts of experience. There are people with lots of experience. There are people that have raced touring cars for years. There are people like you that's done F3, historic Grand Prix car racing, and all these different levels of ability and amounts of experience all get mixed together. What can we do about it?
Trying to put the heat of the moment stuff aside. Because the race hasn't that long finished. I've been battered around in race 3 every race this year, and I think Toka needs to be acting on it more. I think we need to be dishing out points more. Sure, I might deserve some. Fine, give me points. If I mess up, give me points. But you know, we need to be looking at these things. Race 2, for example, you know, you're racing with Gordon Sheridan, Rob Collard, experienced touring car drivers, you know, proper pros. And, you know, Gordon, I got past Gordon, he got past me, no problem. We were alongside Rob Collard for like a few corners, and nobody ended up picking any major damage up.
Yeah.
Nobody's been fired off, nobody's race has ended, and all is well. But as soon as you drop back off what you guys on telly are focusing on, it just seems to be carnage. It's a free-for-all.
Let's look forward. Let's look positive about Snetterton. And it's great you've decided to come back into racing after your short retirement, after race 3 at Croft.
Well,
so that's great.
I haven't taken it back up yet. I'm retiring at the moment, and I might take it back up in the morning.
Oh, that's
maybe
fine.
in
Yeah.
the morning.
Well, I'm sure you'll be there, so that's good.
This I should warn people, has happened many times before.
So you're back in racing. You're going to be at Snetterton. Is that a Sherman-friendly circuit?
Snetterton, it's a mid circuit for us. I think we can, challenge the top 10. I don't think we're not going to be challenging for podiums realistically there, but of course after that we go to Knockhill, and I've got to win one there. I've had four podiums now in the last 6 races there, and I'm absolutely determined to turn one of them into a win. I love that circuit.
Earlier in the month, 6 of the British Touring Car Championship drivers made their way to Foxhall Heath Stadium in Ipswich to take part in a special National Hot Rod Challenge race at the Thunder 500 race meeting. National Hot Rods, Thunder 500. Dave Richardson is your guide.
Let me educate you, Mr. Addison. Rob Collard was one of the Super 6 to get behind the wheel of a National Hot Rod, 2-litre space frame racers with coupe or hot hatch bodies that compete on quarter-mile ovals like this here at Foxhall Heath. The touring car match race grid was set from quali laps. The guys had perfected the setup in the dry, then it rained. So slick tyres, 240 brake horsepower and a damp track, it would always be a challenge. Rob Austin coped quite well in Mikey Godfrey's Tigra, Andrew Jordan less so in Colin Smith's BMW Z4. It was Tom Ingram driving Kim Weaver's Vauxhall Tigra that perhaps benefited most by late running in quali as the track was drying and he had pole position. But he was soon overhauled by the hard-charging Aidan Moffat driving Danny Fisk's number 304 car. And after just a few metres, he'd put it in the lead. Rob Collard, with loads of oval racing experience, was always going to charge around the outside line, but trying to find grip was a big ask. First it was Aaron Smith that got past, and then Andrew Jordan, and Rob Austin wasn't happy being right at the back of the field either. The man that had dialed in not only the car but the conditions as well and looked supremely comfortable out front, Aidan Moffat. And then when it came to just a couple of laps left to run, a little gap was opened for Rob Austin. Could he make it count? Absolutely not, as Rob Collard shut the door. There was no mistaking the winner, though, of this unique match race. It was going to be Aidan Moffat that took the double-wave checkered flag. P2 went the way of Tom Ingram, P3 Aaron Smith. Now it's time for some celebratory donuts. Or not.
I was quietly confident coming here. It's a bit different to the stock cars I'm used to, as I've said, but I mean, Danny and his team, they've got a brilliant car and a great bunch of people, so glad I've done them proud.
It was a great laugh. You know, I've never done anything like this before, so to come down, jump in with Jason, I just couldn't believe how much fun it was. I'd have to come back and do it again.
It was really, really good fun. I was just a bit disappointed about qualifying. Obviously, we went first and it was wetter, so overtaking's not the easiest thing of these things. So but it was really good fun.
You learn a lot of skills from racing on the ovals. I started in mini stocks at the age of 12, and came all the way through British European champion in hot rods and then into touring cars. And it's just a pleasure to be back on an oval circuit and having great fun.
Just as we close, all your touring car mates seem to think this was good fun as well.
Yeah, you can see everybody is smiling, and that says a lot. If all these drivers are smiling, it's great fun.
And the winner of that National Hot Rod Challenge race at Foxhall Heath, Aidan Moffat. Aidan, in a sense, it was going back to your roots, wasn't it? Because you came out of oval racing.
To an extent, obviously, as you said, the oval racing was where we started, but what I done was a 1.4 Honda Civic that cost about £200 from the scrapyard, kicked the windows out and off you went. So, I mean, they were serious bits of kit, so I wasn't quite the same, but it was the driving in a circle with a wall the full way, so to an extent.
Did you go into it thinking, this is just a bit of fun, or did that racer instinct kick in and you thought, I want to win this, and more to the point, I want to beat all these other big names?
I mean, every time you drive a car, and especially an event when people are lending your car for a certain cause, it's always going to be fun. But if you're a driver and you're in a race, you always want to win. So yeah, I think we were definitely aiming for the win. Just we weren't overly confident of that happening. So to end up winning it was a bonus.
Now, people that follow long circuit racing kind of look down their nose a bit at oval racing, and they still have this image that it's grubby banger racing that takes place on a horrible circuit. But actually, over the years, a lot of very good people have come out of oval racing, whether it's via F1 stock cars or national hot rod racing. Derek Warwick was a world champion in super stocks on his way to Formula One, for example. What is it about oval racing that makes drivers so good when they make the transition? What does it teach you?
I think with oval racing, it's because it is two corners, most tracks identical, everyone's car is going to be pretty much on the point of like that's as good as the car is going to be. So from there, it's the driver that has to make that extra jump to win races. And when it's an oval as well, you can't really set up overtakes and whatnot. You have to find the opportunity yourself. So because it's such close packed racing, it's great for racecraft, and it really teaches you to find that every last millisecond off the car.
And what about overtaking? Because, as you say, there's two corners, there's one line, and you're not going to be able to really switch sides very easily. So presumably all the passing, you've got to try and inch round the outside of somebody.
Yeah, there's a lot of it round the outside, but from when I raced, it was the grubby banger racing. So if someone was in your way and you couldn't get past them cleanly, they were getting a punt towards the wall. So for me, it wasn't too hard when I'd done the racing. But with the hot rod boys, the cars are that expensive for a start. You wouldn't dream of doing that. But when you go and watch, some of the talent is unbelievable, and some of them just end up hanging it around the outside. Some of them clearly have a few spare front bumpers.
All right, now final question. Let's get back to your proper racing, if you like, of the year. First season in touring cars with the Mercedes. How's it going? You've had some good days seemingly and a few bad days. Yeah,
I mean it's always going to be a roller coaster year. There's tracks we know very well. For instance, Donington, and we performed really well at Donington. Oulton Park, we didn't know too well. Last year we got one lap in 3 races with engine problems, and it really showed that we didn't know the track well. Come race 3, we were one of the quickest cars on the track, but rather than one of the quickest cars at the front, we were one of the quickest in 16th place or whatever. So by the end of the weekend, we have the pace, which shows we've got the team, the car, and I have got the capability to do so. But it's just we're always on the back foot, and I think that's a big problem with our season. There's a lot of tracks that we don't know too well, and it really affects us on Saturday qualifying. And once you've qualified down the field, it is hard to get up there. Obviously, the new rules with race 1 fastest lap dictating the grid for race 2. At the same time, if you're down the pack, you're going to be in the middle of a big group of cars. So for the first few laps, when the tyres are the best and you're fighting, by the time you have the space, you've not got the tyres. So it's frustrating, because by the end of the weekend you wish you could start again. But we knew we weren't going to come into it with the new Mercedes and all of a sudden just be quick. Although we've learnt a bit last year, we have to learn a new car now and keep learning the track. So it's frustrating, but I'm sure seasons to come will be more consistent.
So as you'd expect, 3 excellent races here at Croft, loads of overtaking, lots to talk about. So let's have a look at the best bits of our trip to Croft 2015.
Come on, baby, take a chance with me. Stick around on the town if you wanna see. We don't belong anywhere, is what she said to me. So come on, take a dance and spin around with me. She said, shine on, baby, set me free, stay la vie. I said, I'll stand by me and stick around with me. And when the street lights fall, you can buy my beat. Cause when the morning light comes, I'll be gone, say la vie. We don't belong anywhere. We don't belong anywhere.
On the downside for Patamax Racing, they've ended up with a very crumpled car for Josh Cook that needed a lot of repair work before race 3. On the positive side, Josh makes it into crash of the week.
Whoa!
Wow, that's a fair old impact, driver's side as well.
Yeah, it was. That would have hurt. Josh, well, you've won one thing this weekend, mate. Crash of the week. That was a hefty old shunt fella.
Yeah, it was pretty hard into the wall there, but at least, yeah, like you said, we won something this weekend. You know, it's not been ideal. Race 2 was real tough. I think my front tyres just finally gave in after being Hunter Abbott's brakes for most of the race. And yeah, I literally got to the first corner, hit them, and I think, you know, they were ruined, and I just couldn't stop the car. It was lock up and, you know, back off the brake, and I just pitched it into the corner to try and save it, and ended up just putting it into the wall pretty hard sideways. So the Patamax guys did a great job to get the car out, because to be honest, I thought that was the end of the day, and you know, come home with some points after that. You know, I don't think we did too badly considering.
Back to the crash though, it was a big shunt. Looked like you'd locked the brakes on the way in, but the momentum that you carried looked to me, I thought that's a failure, definitely. What was it? Have you seen all the data?
No, to be honest, we literally just concentrated on getting the car back together. I mean, I hit the brakes, nothing really happened, so I really squeezed them hard. Ended up just having a lock up, and then, like I said, came back off, hit them again, and the car just wouldn't slow down. So yeah, we're not 100% sure what it was. Either way, it didn't pop its head back up in the final race. But yeah, it was hard into the wall, and I've got a pretty stiff neck now, but I'm sure you know, I'll live to fight another day.
Chiropractor tomorrow morning?
Yeah, possibly, or I might just, you know, I'm supposed to be in work this week, but I probably earned the week off now, so I'll just see how it goes.
Tell me then, beginning of the year, super quick, car looked good, had a change of tyre recently. Is that the big difference for you now? Because it doesn't seem to be working so much, does it?
Yeah, it's really changed the balance for us. You know, we've gone from being right at the sharp end to, you know, we qualified 6th at Donington come here, and we struggled to stay in the top 20. So it really shows that the difference that this new tyre has made to us. We know the areas that we need to improve, but we don't, you know, with the team being new, with me being new, you know, we don't have a lot of data or experience to put up to try and, you know, to try and combat the issue that we have. But we're making, you know, we made big steps forward this weekend, but that didn't show with our, you know, results, because, you know, the nature of this track, the tyres go off very quickly, so all of our setup was kind of done, you know, in the first few laps on new tyres. So yeah, like I said, we're making big steps forward. I think we're going to get a test in before Snetterton, so I'm hoping, you know, well, at some point this year we're going to be back towards the front, but I think, you know, like I said, we're making steps in the right direction.
So it's just a case of licking your wounds, going to some tracks now, trying different things, and just going ahead from there, because the car is good. Fundamentally, it's a good car, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a really good car. To be fair, you know, the Patamax guys built it in a short amount of time. You know, Martin's got a lot of knowledge. My engineer Mick is real good. So, you know, working with Dave Newsham, we have collected a lot of data, but, you know, it takes time to process. You know, you look at the likes of the big teams; they've been around a long time. They've got a lot of data to pull up, and I think we've, you know, the first few rounds we were fighting, you know, inside the top 10, which I think was, you know, pretty impressive considering what the, you know, how new the team is. But yeah, like I said, we're gonna be back up towards that end of the field at some point this year. But we just need to, you know, not rush things, make our decisions and our changes methodically, so that we know why we're fast and we can consistently stay at the top.
Cool. Okay. Well, you get yourself some rest, mate, and we'll see you back at Snet.
Thank you very much.
Race 1 of the day, grid's just about formed, cars make their way back at the end of the warming up lap. Down the pit lane comes Jason Plato. What he wanted to do was bail out of 12th on the grid, get out of the traffic, and have as much clear track space as he could in order to set the fastest race lap, which would get him up at the front of the grid for race 2. And of course, by starting from the pit lane, he'd be way back in the order, and he'd shed the weight. Foul or fair? Well, the regulations say it's fair. There's no problem with him doing that. He started from the pit lane. Other people have done it in other categories where the same rule applies, won the race and used that to their advantage. But it was a gamble, Paul O'Neill, because from 12th on the grid, assuming he kept out of trouble, he could still have taken some points in that. So that was a big sacrifice. It
was a big sacrifice, and Colin Turkington showed that, you know, he could have picked up points. He had an engine problem, but that's what Jason could have done, to be fair. But I think Jason did the right thing, and there is people saying it was foul and it was this and it was that. I'd have done exactly the same thing. You know, you've got to make the rules work for you. Jason didn't sit down and write the rules. You just have to manipulate them the best way you can. And from your point of view, well, what did you think? You're a fan.
Exactly, but he can do that. He's done nothing wrong, like you say, the regulations permit that. And anybody else could have had the same gamble, and people could have done it in any race earlier on in the year. It was a kind of typical Jason thing, wasn't it, to find, not a grey area, but just use that regulation as best he could and to roll the dice. And on the one hand, you kind of think that it's a different Jason these days because he is talking points and about championships, but yet by the same token, here was a way of sacrificing one race in order to try and win the next one. Didn't work out like that, but even so, the points he took out of race 2 proved that it was a very good choice. Whether we see more people doing it now, I'm not sure, because I still think that many of them will think, I want the points out of this race, not look long term for the next.
I think you're dead right, and I think that will not happen. I really don't think that'll happen. I think, you know, he's always the person that makes that first move on something like that, Jason, and I think that's exactly is how it'll stay. There's nowhere else you can go to do that, really.
Going into the second half of the year, do you think we're going to get to a point where people think, right, I'm, for the sake of argument, 4th in this race. My championship rival is 8th. So I'm going to outscore him. That's good. And if I lose a place to whoever's behind me that I'm not racing in the championship, I'll lose a bit of weight going to the next round. Are we going to get to a point where the man behind the wheel and the man behind the laptop are thinking about championship, about weight, or is this not a type of racing that gives you that freedom because it's elbows out and it's busy, busy, busy all the time? It's not like GT racing.
No, not at all. And I think that people are still finding their way, aren't they, with how it all works. And you know, you look at Andrew Jordan again. He come away from Alton, he'd not won a race, still hasn't won a race, was not far off the championship lead, but he's had a bit of a nightmare round 3 at Croft, dropped a bit of a few points, and now that looks like a bad decision maybe, that he's not, you know, right up the front. But Gordon Shedden, attack, and he's right there. Jason, attack. So I think, you know, you can sit along all day, try and shed weight and be where you want to be, but I think you have to attack. I think you just have to go for it. It's British touring cars.
Because you need to bank the points, because you never know where the next bang is going to come from out of your control that files you off the road. It could happen.
Exactly that, and it might happen to Jason at the next race. And you know, Jason's had his fair share of knocks. He, you know, had that blowout at round 2 at Brands Hatch. So it's a difficult one, isn't it? But I do think there's a lot more of people opening laptops and seeing where the points are now, so it'll be interesting to see how it all pans out. But I guarantee we'll get to Brands Hatch at the last weekend of the year, everyone will be like 5 points off each other, and it'll be just a scuffle, and that's what we got to look forward to.
I'll start working on my spreadsheet now then. We go to Snetterton next. We've got this big break, the summer break, so lots of repair time, and looking around here,
needs it.
They don't half need it. Yeah, exactly. Snetterton, a different sort of circuit again.
It is a different sort of circuit again, and I've heard a few people say, oh, BMWs will be good there. BMWs I don't think will be very good there. They ain't got the straight line speed. There's nowhere really they need big traction. There's no cambered corners. I think you're going to see Jason, you're going to see Aaron Smith, and you're going to see Colin Turkington get right up the front again. And I think that's what we've got to look forward to be fair.
And of course, in that break as well, we can have a think about driver grading, because another feature of Snetterton is the half-term report that we all do. You might have a thought or two on that yourselves, and why not tweet us at ITV Motorsport with who you think has been one of the stars of the first half of this year's championship. So we've got a summer break, and then we're off to Snetterton Qualifying on ITV.com on Saturday the 8th of August, a full day of racing on August the 9th on ITV4. The story continues as we head to East Anglia in August. We'll see you there.